Alright everyone, welcome back. I'm Winter, back once again on July 6th of 2016 with another update. I didn't even realize when I made that last video that this was coming up, but we have a ladder map update for the next season. I'm going to break down each of these maps from every perspective. Terran Zerg and Protoss is a Grandmaster random player. I'll give you my personal opinion on them, and I'm going to tell you what the maps are about, and what races I think will have the best time with certain strategies on them. This is going to be a little bit longer than the balance patch update, and this is tied in to, as Blizzard says, the upcoming ladder revamp. If you want to check out the video, you can check out the link below. You can look on the channel. A major ladder revamp coming up. I'm not going to go into it here, but you can check out that video if you're interested. It's a big deal, and I'm very excited for it. These will become the new map pools for Season 3. So this means we're going to have some of the older maps, because I believe there's a total of 4 maps that they're going to be adding. Just to break it down, we've got Apotheosis, Dasan Station, Galactic Process, and New Gettysburg. So I'm just going to first pass. Apotheosis is a large macro map. It's a long map. We'll just take a look here. It's a large macro map. This is a very long rush distance. You have your main base over in this corner. I don't know. Can you guys see my cursor? Let me see. Yeah, you can see the cursor. All right. But yeah, in the bottom right, top left, 2-player map, but there's a long distance in between. This is the longest, would be the longest rush distance of any map in the pool, longer than even cross positions on Frost, which means you can play pretty defensive early on. There's an option for a gold base as your third base, or maybe even your second base if you're feeling really ambitious. There's a set of bridges in the middle of the map, but there's also the opportunity to go around and counterattack. So I think we'll see a lot of counterattack-based play on this map. I don't think this necessarily favors any one race, because each race can play either a very aggressive style, trying to catch a greedy player off guard, or they can play a longer, drawn-out style, focusing more on later game pressure and harass. So it's a large, long macro map, and it has also another feature is a large main base. So things like drops in Reapers and War Prisms and stuff like that could be very effective. So expect to play longer games on this map or get cheesed super hard. Those are the 2 options on maps like this. All right, moving next is Dasan Station. It is unique. And you know how much Blizzard loves their unique maps. I expect this to be a map that gets a lot of heat early on for being... I mean, it's just unconventional. It's unconventional. It's not your standard. You take your second base, and then maybe you put on some pressure. No. On this map, you have a raised high ground where you spawn closer to your opponent, but you can expand backwards. Your base is accessible by 2 different angles. One, there's this area near the front, like a small rush distance, but it's easy to put. There's little choke points here, as well as your ramp at the front that can be walled off. There's also minerals blocking any other escape routes early on, which is really interesting as well, which means third bases could be also with some golden minerals. But it's definitely a unique map. It's a smaller rush distance, but there's a lot of area around it. So it's going to require a different set of builds than you'd use on most maps. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of players veto this because it's just so different. But it could make for a lot of interesting pro games as well. Alright. And now we have coming up Galactic Process. Now this is, if you guys remember, one of the most standard maps from Wings of Liberty and then Heart of the Swarm, Cloud Kingdom. This map is very similar to that in the setup. You have your main base, you go down to your second, which is relatively defensible early on. You have a high ground to work with. And then you have a third base that's kind of blocked off as long as you can cover one set of ramps. There are rocks here and here, which keep your bases protected, so you only have to defend that one attack angle until you get into the mid-game. There's not too much space to fly around the sides. I'm not sure if there are any watchtowers to be able to watch for that. There's actually one more thing to point out, which is this little counterattack path around the side, around the back, which could be used for some surprise attacks. But it's also a very big investment to move around that sort of area. I didn't actually realize there's these little gold bases in the middle as well. So we'll have to see how that works out. But this is probably this is another smaller standard map. Think more like not quite like Dust Towers, but a little bit more like Frozen Temple, but with more choke points to work with. So more defensible than Frozen Temple. but a similar concept in how it's executed. All right, and our final map, and arguably the weirdest map, is New Gettysburg. They actually changed it up a little bit, but New Gettysburg is a 2-player map where you spawn in the bottom, and then the rest of the map moves around the top. So all of these are 2-player maps, no 3 or 4-player. Now, the defining characteristics are there is a bridge here. It's hard to see, but there is a bridge that goes across, and that is a very small bridge. You can block it off with 1 supply depot or 1 pylon. It's very simple. They actually moved... These used to be island bases here, but instead, they have made them more regular bases, which makes it a little bit easier. Now, there are islands here which have air blockers as well. These little force field-looking things, those are air blockers. So you got to be careful, or your air units can literally get trapped in here. If you're rallying mutas to your opponent's base, there's a chance they get trapped in a little bit of a choke point. The AI really screws around with that. But this also makes it so you can wall off against air units effectively, because you can only drop in these locations. So taking these island bases early on could actually be a viable strategy as compared to other maps. So it creates an interesting dynamic. Otherwise, you expand and you can kind of move around the top side of the map. Crossing the bridge is, of course, very risky for any race. I'm excited to see what Terran players do with these island bases and the other races as well. You've got several bases at the top that are relatively easily accessible, and there's a watchtower here. It's a pretty small map, actually. It looks larger than it is on this. Actually, maybe it doesn't, but it's a relatively small map. It's not tiny, but it's on the smaller side of things, just for comparison. So it's already made for some... This map has already been used in Pro League and in Korea, and they're trying to make the ladder map pool reflect that as well, which makes sense because a lot of players practice on the ladder, especially in Korea. Now, I'm just going to touch on... I've been playing some team games lately, but that is it for the 1v1 maps. I'm not sure what other maps they're leaving in the pool. Yeah, it doesn't look like they're actually... They didn't say anything about what maps they're leaving in. I want to say it's going to be like Frozen Temple, maybe Ruins of Endian. I don't know if they'll keep Dust Towers. Dust Towers has been around for a pretty long while now. We'll have to see. But there will be 3, maybe 4 maps from the current map pool there as well. And now we've got team maps. I'm just going to go over the 2v2. Shrines of Liesel. Let's see. Oh, you spawn away from your team. Well, I'll just read the description because I haven't actually played on these. I have played on those 1v1 maps. I've already tested them out myself. I'm not talking out of just looking at it. I've played them, all of them, multiple times. So, Shrines of Liesel features very short rust distances as well as teammates who are separated from each other. Factors attributed with in combination with their 2 early game highlighted expansions, maps to favor aggressive contain strategies. I can see that. Yeah, it looks like a pretty short rush distance. You can protect your bases here if you put a choke point up on this side, but early drops and tanks and stuff like that might be able to push through. This looks like a great map. Like Zerg, I think, is going to either do really well early on and then drop off later on. We'll have to see. I don't really know the dynamics of team games that well. I'm Masters, but I just play 1v1 strats usually, so I don't know. So a very aggressive 2v2 map. And now we have Snowy Mesa. Contrary to the first map, Snowy Mesa is a heavily fortified map that will favor late-game strategies. Ramp leading to the main, blocked off by breaking the rock towers. So you can pretty much choke off 5 bases. So the opposite of that last map. And I love the wintry tile set, of course. But yeah, very defensive macro map. You can already tell it's a larger map as well. So bring on the Sky Toss, is what I'm thinking here. Alright, 3v3 Molten Temple. Alright, I'm not going to get too far into the 3v3 maps. Shit's on fire, yo. But, okay. So, is that a watchtower on the island of lava? Alright, that's interesting. Very square map as well. We'll see how that plays out. Looks like it's going to be pretty air heavy, based on these distances here. And Orbital Depot. This looks a bit more standard. There's a lot of ground space here to work with. Like all team game maps, it seems kind of small, but cramming the players into any StarCraft map is difficult. So, and we've got, of course, the 4v4s, which I've been playing a lot more lately. Garden of Shadows. Oh, God. It's another one of these where you got 2 players in each corner, and then you can attack towards either angle. Those are always those games are actually always crazy, where there's a couple maps where you spawn with only 2 players of your team in any certain location, and they can choose to just bear down with all 4 players on one corner, but your teammates can counterattack at the same time. And this is a turtle map. This is super turtle map, like real turtle map. You can already tell. You got free bases at the back. You just line it around with turrets, and you're turtling. So have fun with that. I want to play mono battles. I want to play mono battles on this one. We'll probably play mono battles on all of them. But there's your breakdown. The 1v1 maps. We've got our big, solid macro map. We've got our short rush distance but wide map with a lot of counterattack and different strategy capabilities. Galactic Process is your most standard map. Think Cloud Kingdom but wider by a small margin. And New Gettysburg is your air-to-air map with the bridge. Somewhat short rush distance on the bridge. Kind of normal rush distance via the other ground path. But overall, a pretty decent spread, which is what they were going for, as they've described. But yeah, those are going to be your new maps coming up for next season. Hopefully, give me your opinions on them in the comments, of course. Make sure to practice them. If you're looking forward to the next season, make sure to check out my video on the ladder revamp as well. I will link it in the description. But thank you guys for watching. Good luck, have fun. Happy StarCraft, and see you next time.